It was the book of Proverbs in the Bible that I think set me on a path towards God. And it was how the Lord Jesus drew me to him. There's one verse, well, there's a few, but there was one verse in particular, and I still have it in a framed verse in my home now, and I see it every day as a reminder. And it's Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 through to 7. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Be not wise in thine own eyes, fear the Lord, and depart from evil. It came to me at a time, I'm getting a bit emotional, sorry. It came to me at a time when I had literally nothing. I had lost my home. I hadn't lived a particularly good life prior to that. Throughout my teenage years, and all things really stemmed from a very abusive childhood that led me on a very, very shaky path towards everything that you could do to yourself that's bad and against yourself. I didn't very much like myself. I didn't know how to. I was always told I wasn't good enough. Some very cruel and particularly nasty things were said to me as a child and done to me, and they created the adult that I became. Life was really hard, and it had always been hard. I was self-harming when I was 11. Started drinking probably 12 or 13 years old. Drugs came very, very quickly in my teenage years. Nothing heavy at that point, but later in life, I had lots of problems with cocaine, and that attracted a particular type of person as well into my life who did the same. Treated me badly, and really I blamed myself because I allowed it. But years and years went on, and I was in a cycle of never being happy, being in awful relationships, never settling down, losing my home time and time again, having what money I did have stolen from me, taken from me by those who were closest to me. I've lost my belongings over and over. I've ended up with just the bag that I was carrying over and over. And I guess it was probably 10 years ago now. I was in a pretty bad place. I hadn't eaten for a week. I had 2 little cats that I used to go to the supermarket and steal cat food for to make sure they were eaten. I had no money for rent, and I ended up out on the street. I had to put my cats into cattery because I couldn't look after them. I was separated from them for months, and that was a huge bill. Luckily, it was the person I'd known from before, where they'd stayed when I travelled short trips, so they were happy to take them on, and the money could come later. And it was the hardest thing I ever had to do. They were my little comforters on this earth. So to have to hand them over, not be with them, after them being with me all through everything. It was very difficult for me. But I had to try and get my life back together. I did a very bad job at that. I ended up in another very manipulative, narcissistic, and abusive relationship that led me down another terrible path in life. And again, I blamed myself. But it has to be me. It must be me, because why is all this happening to me? Why, from a young child to a person in their 40s, have I never had a break? Never had any, what people call luck. Not that I ever experienced it anyway. So things just went from worse to worse. I managed to actually hold a job for a little while. And so that meant I could get my little ones back, and I had a tiny little apartment. I was struggling again, couldn't make up for the losses I'd had in my life. Really was at the end. I've had suicidal thoughts all my life. But I attempted that several times. So that evening, my electric got cut off. I had a few candles, and that was it. I really couldn't take any more. I just about had enough. Couldn't understand why. Tried so hard all my life to be something. Was successful at nothing. I had a pattern of abuse run through my world from a child straight through to my adult years. And I lay down on my bed that night in complete darkness. I lay on the bed, and then I had this awful feeling come over me. I mean, it was almost like a temptation to just get it over with. It was so overwhelming. And then I saw something, and it's not something I've shared with anyone really. I just felt this presence, and it was a heavy presence that was not good, and I got frightened. But I didn't move from my bed. I just lay there looking up at the ceiling. And I panicked. I really panicked, because I'd never felt such a thing before. I'd been afraid, I'd been fearful. I've been terrorized, and I felt terror. This was different. This was so different. And then I saw it, this dark shadow in the top left corner of the ceiling. And I thought immediately, it's because I'm hungry, it's because it's dark, it's because I'm in this frame of mind, I'm imagining something. I'm imagining it. So I looked to the other side of the ceiling. I could see the corner clearly. Even though it's dark, I can still, because there's light coming out from the street through the side of the window, so I could see the ceiling. And then I looked back in that corner, and it was still there, whatever this was. And I thought it, and I looked at the floor, wondering if there was something that was casting a shadow up, but there was nothing. And then out of my mouth, I just said, God, if you're real, help me. And then as soon as I'd said that, whatever that thing was, it was directly above my face. It almost as if it had a nose. It was almost like nose to nose touching. And it had a form. This time there was a form, almost like a person. And out of my mouth came these words: I have no fear of you. and it was gone in an instant. And I don't, even now when I think back to that moment and how those words came from my mouth, I knew they weren't my words, because I was afraid at the point before those words came out of my mouth. I was terrified. I mean, literally so scared that I thought my life's over. Whatever this is, it's got me. But as soon as those words came out of my mouth, and it was my voice. It was absolutely my voice, but I don't know how those words came to be. And as soon as it was there, it was gone in a second. Absolutely gone. And the peace and the calm that I felt, I can't describe. I cannot put it into words because it's not possible. Because within a second, I was terrorized. And in the next literal second, it felt like I was being rocked back and forth like a baby. And I had so much peace and calm in my heart, my soul, every part of my being. It was incredible. Absolutely incredible. And I knew at that very second that it was God. I knew that His presence had sent whatever that was where it was meant to be, away from me. And He filled me up with such a beautiful, beautiful peace that I've got no words. I can't explain it. Even the most flowery, beautiful, descriptive words, it's not going to cut it because it's not enough. I cannot describe how I felt sufficiently for you to understand what that was. And from that point forward, I just knew He is real. I never stopped searching. I struggled still. But I was on a journey with Him, a journey I never knew was going to be so incredible, so wonderful, so fulfilling, so spiritual, a relationship with Him that I've never had with a human on earth.